Hey, everybody. Stu Smith here, going live. Hope you are well and hanging in there on this Monday morning with daylight savings time starting here, at least in the US. Yeah, it's one of those rough weeks when you have to spring forward and you have, uh, your 6 o'clock workout now feels like a 5 o'clock workout. You wake up at 5 o'clock, feels like 4 o'clock. It's not that big a deal. It's just a minor inconvenience, really. Just something to bitch about while you're trying to start running early in the morning. But no one really cares. So just go do it anyway. That's what we did. Had a good one, brought out two classics. One, an old classic with the PT pyramid. You know the drill 1-10-1 back, pull up, push ups, sit ups, dips, run every third set at 800. So we built up like 3 miles of running in that with a little warm up jog before that. So about 4 miles total. And then the new classic, the 50-50 swim workout afterwards, topped it all off. So was a good start to the week, I would say, with two classics. One old classic, one new classic. So I've seen a lot of people do really well with both of those workouts. One, make it like an assessment workout just to see how high you can go up each week. And then the other one being, improvement on your calisthenics, obviously, but the other one being a really quick way to get in swimming shape for a 500-yard or 500-meter swim test, depending on which branch of service you are joining. So, I wanted to start off while you guys congregated on here with spring training options. In fact, this is an article I wrote, and there's a lot of people that come into the spring thinking, I've been lifting all winter. I don't want to stop lifting. I don't want to lose my gains. Well, guess what? If you're strong already, you need to work on another weakness. And that's really what I want you to think about the spring on how you tackle this next spring cycle is to focus on a weakness. What a lot of people do is they just like start running way too much too soon. One thing about our spring training program is it's a nice steady progression where you have to build up to like 15 miles and then we progress probably, I think we only progress to like 25 in the spring. So it's a good moderate level. It's not taking you from 0 to 40 in a week or even 20 to 40 in a week. That's what I've seen a lot of people do. A lot of people will feel like if they don't lift, they're going to lose some of their mass. And that's really not true either. I've seen a lot of people maintain their mass even though we're doing calisthenics and cardio only. But if you are a hard gainer and you just really have to work hard at maintaining mass, what we have come up with is kind of our compromise solution, which is a block periodization model where you do 3 weeks of cals and cardio, which is what we will be starting up next week, um, or the week after. I think next week's going to be a testing week for us where we test all of our strength gains that we accumulated during the winter lift cycle. But um, it's a 3 week. This is the winter, so it's the opposite actually. So the winter is a 3 week lift with a 1 week cals and cardio deload, which is what we're on now. We're on that cals and cardio deload. Just so happens to be the last week of the 12-week cycle. And then the spring training is just the opposite. It's a 3 week cals and cardio with a 1 week lift cycle or 1 week lift in there just to kind of deload the reps, deload the miles. And next thing you know, you have improved your calisthenics and cardio significantly, running specifically and swimming, and you have been able to maintain some of those strength gains from prior lift cycles. So Our spring training starts, unofficially this week because we are in that 12th week of this winter lift cycle, which is a cows and cardio week. So we're using it as a deload. We're still not running a whole lot today. Like we ran maybe 3 miles, I think was all, maybe four if you count the warm up jog. Um, so we're not running a whole lot at the spread throughout the week. In fact, we may only get 15 miles this week, whereas the spring training one's going to get harder every time. So it's a little bit different. So unofficially, I would say our spring training has started with this 12th week of the winter lift cycle. Next week is going to be kind of a testing week, but we'll warm up and do some cardio and calisthenics mainly as warm ups and cool downs as we test some of our lifts, just see where we are. And then the week after that is our spring training. So this week, next week, so it looks like, the 27th, we will start the spring training program. So if you guys want to see my spring training options, this is them. So you guys can see this. This is my latest spring training option. This one right here, the seasonal tactical fitness periodization, is my absolute latest. It's a companion of the winter lift cycle. And it's basically what it says there: spring calisthenics cardio with running progression. The spring training one is a little bit more geared towards some of the challenging events of selections, whether that is longer timed runs, longer swims with fins. You still got your PSTs and IFTs and all that. It's got rucks in there. It's got log PT simulations in there. Uh, and it's also a block periodization model, just like the spring seasonal tactical fitness one. So it's 3 weeks of cows and cardio, 1 week of strength deload. Now this one goes straight through spring and summer. So it's like 12 weeks of spring, 12 weeks of summer, boom, 24-week program. So bang for your buck, you get 24 weeks in this one versus 12, 16 weeks in the others. But this one is not a block periodization model. So if you wanted to make it a block periodization model, what a lot of people do is they will take one of the favorite lifts weeks that they like to do and input it into this one right here, the spring and summer. And then the cows and cardio is kind of meant for everybody. It's got a beginner, it's got an intermediate, it's got an advanced training program. So I've actually started people who are trying to pass the PST and they're nowhere near passing a 500-yard swim, mile and a half run, not passing the pull up, push up, sit ups, and start them here. And by the end of it, they are doing really well to a point of some of them even skip the phase one Navy SEAL workout book and they go straight to phase two. So it's got some beginner stuff, but it also has some advanced stuff that's going to do really well for you, especially if you don't have any equipment. I mean, you need a pull-up bar and a place to run and a place to swim if you're doing the buds workout, but there's swimming options. So if you don't have a pool, you can bike or walk or jog more, or do things like that. So anyway, that's the latest one. You can see the article right here: spring training options to crush your testing and training, and just fun stuff. It's got a little bit about each program as you go through it. So those are great options for you if you haven't seen those yet. Um, let's see. That's the first question, was when does our spring training start? Looks like I answered that one. Sorry, you got to go. Yep, we'll be back tomorrow, and 9 o'clock tomorrow we'll be back, and we'll do some combat swimmer stroke critiques. I got a pretty good amount already submitted. So if you want to submit a video, just email me, stu@stewsmith.com, or you can DM me over at Instagram. Just a video, short video, 50 meters is all I need to see, and that should be enough for me to be able to critique what you got going on. Do I believe in eating saturated fats? Well, I just ate big old steak and eggs, so yes. Not only do I believe in it, I do it. But, everything with moderation, it's just, I don't do steak and eggs every day. I probably maybe do steak and eggs once a month. um, but, I ate steak probably twice last week, some salmon. Good stuff. Let's see, I've been starting a stow training program and it's somewhat humbling. Good. That's the way it should be. These workouts are tough, but they're not impossible. I think it's a really good way to um, understand some of the training principles that you're about to endure. When you go through these type of programs, um, there's no 30-minute gym routine that's going to prepare you for a day of spec ops training. I mean, it's just you got to put in the time doing various activities that are specific to your training, whether that's running, swimming with fins, rucking, treading, lifting weights, calisthenics, cardio. It really depends on where your strengths and weaknesses are and what you really need to focus on. But that's really what they're for. I'm glad you're finding it challenging, but just remember it's not impossible. You can do it. And what a lot of people do is when they go through it the first time, they just make notes on what they had to change. Like instead of doing 5 miles, they did 3, or instead of swimming 3,000 meters, they did 1,500 meters. Just, whatever changes they made, they just put notes on how they made changes. And then they just went through the program. If they made changes, they made changes, no big deal. Then they do it again and they find that they don't have to make changes that second time around. So give yourself some time. Sometimes you might need 2 rounds of the same training cycle to really see improvements. In fact, most people, I would say, if they're in your position where like this is kicking my ass when I first start, do that and they are like night and day. If it's a 12-week program, they're night and day 24 weeks later. I mean, completely changed physical abilities and person, confidence, everything. Do I use special socks for running? I do not. Um, I like thinner socks versus thicker socks. Um, I will find an answer for you on that, on like what kind of socks I do use, but they're not the thick cotton or wool blended sock. Even in the winter, I like the thinner socks as it tends to uh, just my foot slides better in the shoe versus rubs raw in it with some other ones, especially if they get wet. And in the summer, I sweat so much here; it's just so humid. In fact, your shoes are squishy. Gets that gross. Um, and wearing a thinner pair of sock then is also helpful. Good morning, Stu. Is 20 miles weekly enough to build to before starting the Air Force program? Doing the added mileage for the CRO also. Um, yeah, if you're running 20 miles a week, you can definitely handle um, the program. Let me just look in here. Like week 3, for instance. Ooh. Yeah, if you're doing the 3, there's another 2.5. There's 5, or 10, 15, 16, ooh, 17, 18. Yeah, you're going to be in the 20s definitely by week 3. Probably closer to like 25 in there. But if you've built up and you're pretty solid on 20 miles a week, you should be able to handle that. But if you're not, just back it down a little bit. Just don't do it just because it says do it. That is not a personalized program. You may have to personalize it for your current progression, abilities, goals, facilities, whatever you need to do, but try to do as much of that column as you can in that day, and you just make notes on how you had to alter it. And then just remember the next time you make it a little harder. Let's see, Caden. Oh, toothpaste in the mask worked great. Yes. I don't just make this stuff up. In fact, I learned that as well way back when. I think I learned that in the 80s. So it's a useful tool for sure. Let's see. You guys send me some questions because I'm about out. I did get a good question. Do I like squatting on low bar? Yeah, I don't go too low. My shoulder does not feel good when I go too low. So I go up a little higher. I've been having some shoulder issues at my right shoulder for some reason when I do my squats, and it doesn't just feels like something's wrong. It doesn't feel like it's injured or pain. I just got to work on some mobility back there. So I definitely don't go low. I put it a little higher. But if I keep it back there too long, it just gets really stiff. So I got to do my sets real fast, low reps. But I did definitely can go heavy, and I just do fewer reps and not spend too much time in that position. Da, da, da. Let's see. Oh, somebody sent a question in last week that I didn't get to answer, I don't think. And it was talking about recruitment. And they had asked if they had gotten out and they had a hard time while they were in, maybe didn't get the best recruitment codes, the RE codes that they give you on your DD 214. Not sure what all the codes mean, but one basically means that you can come back in, and whatever other numbers that you get means you had a certain issue with military service and you had to get out, with the general discharge or something like that. Sometimes that is harder to get back in because of that. Now, it also depends on if recruitment numbers are low. So, like if you notice right now, across the board, pretty much, they're offering bonuses to join. So that means you get through boot camp, you get through your school, you get qualified, whatever, you get this 10, 20, 30. I think I've seen them as high as $50,000 bonuses, which is huge for the Army specifically. I think Air Force even has some bonuses as well. So when you see that, that just means that recruitment numbers are low. So waivers tend to go through a little easier when recruitment numbers are low. Like when recruitment numbers are high, um, and they're getting all that they need, they can be a little pickier. But as of right now, recruitment numbers are pretty low. Waivers that may not have been possible 5 years ago may be possible now. So don't hold me to that. It depends on your recruiter on how hard they want to work with you to get you in, because that waiver process is not easy. It just means more work for your recruiter. Some recruiters are like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So find another recruiter or you're not joining. Not all of them. Some of them will do that to you. But if you find a recruiter that's willing to work with you, might be able to pull it off. Let's see. I need to work on my mobility and stability with treading. It's hard. Yes. I tell you what, man, I have had a coaching epiphany with mobility and treading. Like I would work with people and teach them different treading strokes. And then I just realized, wait a second, you can't get into this egg beater or even do the scissor kick right because your hips are too tight or your ankles are too tight, or like swimming with fins, even like it hurts really bad to swim with fins because your ankles are not mobile enough or flexible enough. So they need to work on ankle mobility, knee mobility, hip mobility. All of that comes into play with treading. And once I started mixing in foam rolling and stretching mats into the pool deck, it was night and day. Everybody became an egg beater, you know, was able to do the egg beater that, 3 weeks ago they were not able to do the egg beater. Now, it took about 3 to 4 weeks of 3 to 4 times a week of mixing in treading and stretching. So we basically treat it like a mobility day, where if you're not familiar with mobility day, check this out. Mobility day, some people call it the easy day, some people call it the recovery day. It's all of those, but I don't definitely think it's easy. It's just different. Check out that article. But way it looks is this: we would swim or tread for 5 minutes, and then we would stretch, foam roll, and massage gun any tight spots for 5 minutes, and we would just go through that cycle. Swim and tread, stretch. Swim and tread, stretch. Was awesome. And people were starting to really get it. And we were using that frog pose more than anything. So there's a yoga pose called the frog pose. So Google that term and you'll see it. Um, but they're kind of like on all fours. So it's almost like you're doing a plate pose with your feet kicked out right underneath you like a frog. Well, what we do is we try to get up into a vertical frog pose. So most frog poses are horizontal, and then you try to get into that vertical position, and then put your hands over your head and work on shoulder mobility as well. That'll help you even more. I may even have a picture of it. Let me see if I can pull it up. If you guys haven't seen it on my Instagram, I post it just about every mobility day just to remind people. Well, you know what? Let's do this. We'll go to Instagram because I know I have it over there. Mm, things are moving slow. Let's see. So let me just show you this one pose that I'm talking about. It'll make sense once you see it. So mobility day, mobility day. I know a post. There you go, right there. So this one right here, this pose right here is um, what I do to get my ankles ready for swimming with fins. So I'm just sitting on my shins, and I'm also working on my shoulder mobility here as well, trying to get my biceps squeezed on my ears, one hand on top of the other, butt on my heels. And as you can see here, no daylight between my foot and the floor, right? So that's a 0 degree angle between my foot and shin, right? If you have tight ankles, you will see daylight here. Okay, so that's one pose. And then the other pose is this is the frog pose. This is the frog pose in the down position. So you can see that just kind of in a plank pose, but my feet are kicked out like that. You see that? And then I take it up to a 45-degree angle. And you'll see this starts sucking about right here. And then this sucks even more. So the goal is to get into this position, because if you think about what the egg beater really is doing, it's pushing down with the inside of your foot, the shin, inside of your shin, almost like you're kicking a soccer ball directly in the down position to the bottom of the pool. So think of it that way, because your egg beater is pushing down so you go up. It's not spinning in a circle like this, like the name egg beater, where a lot of people screw up how they do the egg beater thinking it looks like an egg beater. It actually doesn't. Actually looks more like you're pushing down like this. So the circles are more like an ellipse that go in the vertical plane versus the horizontal plane. All right, so that should make a lot of sense to you guys. If you want to stay up using the egg beater, you got to push down with the inside of your feet, not the bottom of your feet. A lot of people do that. Once I see that, it's a mobility issue. They got the technique down and the timing of the stroke, but they don't have the mobility down to produce enough power downward with the inside of their foot and inside of their shins. So there you go, Seth. That was my long answer to needing help with treading and mobility. Hey, Stu, my pool, for whatever reason, is limiting visits to 3 a week. Huh, weird. How would you maximize your swim schedule if you only had 3 sessions a week? Strongly considering joining another gym. That would probably be my first answer. But I would do this. I would do, like, if you notice my workouts, I'll have a upper body day and a leg day side by side. Okay. So let's see. See if I have it in here. Yeah, they are. They're just different style of workouts. So uh, usually I have it set up as a upper body day and a lower body day. And there's like 50/50s or 25/25s. Maybe even 100/100s without fins. So my suggestion would be warm up with like the 50/50 workout. So you get like 1500 without fins. Then go ahead and put on fins and swim for 1,000 to 2,000 meters with fins. So you're going to spend more time in there. It might take you an hour, hour and a half to get all that done. But if you can only do 3 a week, that's how I would do it. So basically just mix in your upper body day swim with your lower body day swim. Now, I do have a mobility day swim that's really more geared towards drown proofing. In fact, you can check this out. Usually on mobility day, I end mobility day with a swim workout pulled from the drown proofing treading tests of many of these selections. And I just put the link into it here. So basically it looks like this. So you know the standard drown proof test, which is bottom bounce, float, front flip, back flip, travel, pick up a mass, come up. That's, and your hands are tied behind your back, feet together. Simulate that. Don't do it. Don't tie yourself up. No pool's going to let you do that, for one. But don't do it by yourself either. Just simulate it. And then, but every exercise that we do, every event, we swim 100 meters in between. So do your bottom bounce, swim 100 meters. Do your float, do 100 meters. Still a tread in there for like 2-3 minutes, 100 meters. And that's a really good way to mix in some drown proofing skills along with some cardio as well. After, once again, mix it with another leg day type swim workout where you can do, 1,500, 2,000 yards of swims with fins. Good question, though. Oops, I think I missed a question back here. Let me see. Let's see, where was I? I think I clicked the wrong question. Okay, here we go. So so that was where I was. So when it comes to swimming underwater, it feels like I'm hitting the brakes. Okay, when doing my kick. Is it normal feeling? Well, it depends. Probably the best way to do is send me a video of you swimming just 25 meters underwater. Um, what can happen is you have a really wide kick of your legs, and that is slowing you down. So what a lot of people try to do is they kind of sneak up their legs by bending their knees under them and then whipping out their legs versus doing like wide open splits and closing them. It's you can see on some of my kicks the way I do it on on the CSS, and it's very similar to that. I personally am a better scissor kicker than I am breaststroke kicker, so I still do my underwater swims with a scissor kick versus a breaststroke kick. And I throw in a dolphin kick in there too. But try that. Try adding a dolphin kick right before you double arm pull. And then when your arms are down by your side, all you can do is kick and recover. So it could be one of two things. It could be your kick's too wide, or it could be when you're recovering, your arms are way out here and you're just stopping yourself. So keep your arms really tight on that recovery so you're not putting on the brakes, as you said. People abroad like me didn't expect to live to start 1 hour before. Since times change in the US, probably many will miss. Good point. Yeah, I guess it's 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there's actually some states that don't do that. I think like Arizona, which they're border on mountain time and West Coast time. So I think they're either West Coast time or they're mountain time. They don't change their clocks. So anyway, I think that's the way it works. Could be wrong. How much of the age difference is there between Army SOF teams, specifically SF and CAG and NSW? Buddy of mine said guys in their late 20s and early 30s are more commonly found in SF. Oh, absolutely. The SF units are a lot more mature in age and obviously in emotionally mature too, physically mature too, compared to Spec War. Because think about the journey most of those guys have made in the SF units. Most of them depend. Because of the job, they are going to be teachers of the profession to other countries. Most of those guys have learned the skills appropriately to a level to where they can go to another country and actually be an asset and teach it to that indigenous force that's allied with our goals and mindset. Whereas the SEALs, they can recruit a lot of people from right off the street because there's nothing in the Navy that prepares them for SEAL training. Whereas SF community, they have infantry, they have airborne, they have rangers, so that they have a nice little progression to get there, and that takes some time. Um, so that's why they tend to have a lower attrition rate because one, they've kind of progressed with their training and their maturity as well. Whereas the SEAL community has a very high attrition rate. But really, to be honest with you, it's only because people show up there so unprepared and immature that they quit. Now, there are some older guys that don't make it. Yes, that happens too. But a majority of the attrition at SEAL training is the teenager, period. You don't tend to see many teens in some of these other spec ops units. CAG's a whole different story. You can't even join CAG until you've done 5 years in your current job. That's the same way with like dev group. You can't join unless you've been in the Navy for 5 years. Post buds for 5 years. So there you go. I'm torn between starting your cows and cardio program or starting your spring training up next. Would you expand on the specific differences between the two and the best use cases? Well, how about giving me a better idea of where your mileage is, because that matters. The cows and cardio starts off at a very beginner level to where you're walking and maybe running a mile a day. um, to advancing to probably getting up to 15 to 20 miles, depending on if you use some running options versus bike options. So I would say cows and cardio is a lot easier than the spring uh, training and the spring seasonal tactical fitness periodization. Just because there's a beginner and intermediate phase to that, which takes up probably 10 weeks of the program. Then there's another 6 weeks of advanced training. Um, so it progresses a little bit more in that part where the other ones are really trying to build the foundation. Whereas spring training's no joke. It's going to take you from 15 to 16 miles a week, get you up to 25 miles a week by the end. And then the summer takes that up to another notch and gets you up to 35, 40 miles a week. So that's the biggest difference. And the volume's going to be similar. Volume in the cows and cardio is a little less than the volume in the spring training programs. And remember, every fourth week is a lift in the spring training and the spring periodization program, whereas every fourth week in the cows and cardio is all cows and cardio. So it's just a different system, different model of training. Good question, though. I think I just answered that one. If I can't afford some of the more expensive, fine. Not sure what you're asking. Would it still be worth ordering a cheaper pair? Oh, fins. Cheaper pair from Amazon or something, since the CRO 1500 allows them. Would you recommend testing in them? You know what? First check eBay. You'd be surprised. People get rid of these things all the time. Um, you might be able to find something on eBay first. Uh, go to a local dive shop if you have one. See what they offer. Um, but yeah, I would probably go with that one. I think there's another site that sell. I think it's ATAC. What's it called? ATAC uh, fins. Um, yeah, I think it's ATAC. ATAC Elite. Yeah, they're expensive, but they give you everything you need. This is actually a pretty good uh, program. In fact, if you go to Instagram and search ATAC, ATAC, let me see, ATAC, it comes up as uh, ATAC official, ATAC elite. I guess that's a form of athlete, ATAC elite. But anyway, if you check it out, they got some good gear. Their website sells pretty much everything that Air Force Special Warfare needs, Navy Special Warfare needs, recon needs. It's actually they're doing a pretty good. They have a pretty good model. They basically put it this way: if I'm the answer to Air Force workouts, FBI workouts, Navy SEAL workouts, Marine workouts, and old man workouts, um, they sell all the equipment for all those jobs as well. So pretty good. It's not cheap though. I would probably start on eBay first. In fact, when I test out running shoes, I go to eBay. In fact, I just got myself one of these sets right here. Um, the guy wore them once. They didn't fit him. Sold them for $50 instead of 140 bucks. And these ultras are pretty darn good. So that's my new running shoe for the spring progression. So I find a lot of stuff on eBay, especially stuff I'm testing out and I don't want to pay full price for and then not like them. So consider that. That's just um, one of my ways I go shopping. That pose feels great. I'm assuming the frog pose, maybe. when I do it, my ankles crack, my shins are stretched, trying to avoid spring shin splints. Yeah, I think that will help you. Yeah, definitely the one where you're sitting on your ankles. Well, I will tell you this, a lot of shin splints come from immobile ankles, right? Because what makes those ankles immobile are your shin muscles. So by doing that stretch, you are stretching your shins out a little bit. That's going to enable your foot to move a little bit better. And next thing you know, you're not getting shin splints. So, but you need good pair of shoes too. Should I practice tying and untying knots on their own, or should I practice them around things for the underwater tying? That's a good question. I remember going down there. Um, the way we would do it with buddies is one guy would hold it like this, and you would go and tie it around his string. So I would get two knot tying lines, one to like stretch it from end to end somewhere. So you tie your knot around that line because that's how it's going to be when you're underwater doing it. That's cool, man. Glad you're learning something. That's what I'm here for. Do you have any tips for beginner learners of the CSS swimming stance? How frequently do you swim? Thank you, advice. I swim 5 to 6 days a week. I coach guys and I teach that like you got to get in the pool several days a week. Now, if you have pool issues, obviously 3 days a week is fine, but you just got to put more time in there when you are in the pool and learning proper techniques. So my recommendation for you who are learning the CSS is to do this. I wrote an article called Pull, Breathe, Kick, Glide, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, Repeat. And that is the sequence of the stroke. Top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. Hold that glide for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Pull on 3. So read that article. It will be very informative to you as far as how to do the stroke. However, you're not going to learn how to swim by looking at pictures and reading an article. You need to click the embedded videos in there as well to see it in motion. That's where you're going to learn it because it is a timing issue more than it is a stance, right? Yes, you have a good streamlined body position, but the timing of pulling and turning and breathing are very important in the combat swimmer stroke. And you need to see it to learn it. So if you go to my Instagram, StuSmith50, or you go to my TikTok, StuSmith50, you will see countless videos. When I say countless, well over 100 videos of submitted critiques that I have given. And I just do a voiceover critique of what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. And you can kind of see that. And there's several perfect ones on there too that you should videotape yourself. Have somebody walk along the pool and swim, videotape a 50, send it to me. I'll tell you what you're doing wrong. But you should also compare it to that person that I labeled as a perfect CSS. In fact, let me just do this. I don't normally do this on Mondays, but since there have been several swimming questions, we are going to go visit my TikTok page. And if you don't like TikTok, that's fine. You don't have to get the app. It's an actual website. So just click this. In fact, if you just click this right here, tiktok.com at StuSmith50, that'll take you to my TikTok page. But my TikTok page looks like this. Where are you? There you go. So as you can see, it is nothing but um, CSS critiques, right? And if you um, go down here, I got excellent, I have not bad, got the 50-50 workout explained in here, some nice CSSs, nice, glide longer, excellent. This is always good when you see an excellent in here, extra kick. Every now and then I'll put in perfect CSS like this guy right here. This is, if you want to see a perfect CSS, click the link or the video that says perfect CSS. Now he's doing a breaststroke kick which is fine. You can do a breaststroke kick with it if you want. But this is really good. In fact, I think I got him doing 100 meters in this one. And he's doing 100 meters in a minute 30. So that means he's doing a 50 in 45 seconds. If he were to hold on to this pace for, uh, a full 500 yards, which he can do, he's swimming 7:30 every time. So this is just a really good streamlined body position that's making him go across the pool in as little as one stroke. That's a breaststroke pullout. There's two strokes. See what he gets it in. Three strokes. And by the way, this is not a competitive swimmer. Four strokes. Looks like he'll be at like four strokes in a glide. So that's good swimming. So if you want to learn swimming, go check out those videos over there. What knots should we know how to tie? You know what? I don't think I have an article on those. I do have if you scroll through my Instagram, I actually have all five of them on there, but it's a couple of years ago, so you gotta hunt and find them. You got to do the square knot, which is real easy. The clove hitch, which is real easy. It's a twin to the right angle knot, which is just another loop of the clove hitch. So square knot, clove hitch, right angle, Beckett's bend, and bowline. Those are the five knots. Let's see. I think I missed a lot of questions here. How many miles a week before you step foot into buds? I know you recommend 35. Jake tops out at 50. What do you recommend? It really depends. I would say between 35 and 50, depending on your athletic history. So if you can do 35 miles a week and you can do a 4 mile timed run in as little as 27, 28 minutes with not a gut check, 35 miles a week is fine. Now, if you need more miles of running because you're a bigger guy, need to lose some weight, sometimes that's a good option, but sometimes those extra miles injure you. So I leave that 50 miles option, those extra 15 miles, depending on the person's athletic history. So, uh, you know, it's up to you. I've just seen a lot of people get injured anytime they go over 40 for too long. But if you get up there, get to 50, and then come back down, I think that's probably a wiser way to do it versus get to 50, stay there for 4 or 5 months, go to boot camp and run almost 3 miles a week at boot camp for the boot camp it is. And then you got to build back up. You could probably use that, 50 miles a week as a peak and then taper at boot camp and then rebuild back up at prep. So, a couple different ways to do it. There's no one way. You do need to get some running in, and it needs to be good running. Now, I've seen guys do 50 miles a week, and all of it was slow running, and they didn't pass a 4 mile timed run because they weren't pushing any of their runs. So, when people say, I'm going to run 50 miles a week, great. How are you going to do it, though? You're going to run some 7 minute miles, you're going to run some 6 minute miles because you need to. You can't rely on 8 9 minute mile pace just to build an aerobic base. You know, only it's fine to do them every now and then, shake it out, whatever. But I was probably around 40, 45 when I went, and but I needed to run. I never once lifted weights that year prior to going to Buds, and I never once wished I had lifted weights while I was at Buds. I had actually wished I'd run more because running was just hard for me. I never failed to run, but I had to work to get 27, 28 minute 4 mile time runs. They were never easy. So My advice is don't just run to get mileage, run quality miles so you can get a 6-minute mile on a mile and a half and you can get a 27, 28-minute 4-mile timed run. Those are the two things that matter. Everything else is just durability running so you can handle, a week of 50 miles of running. Hit 804 500 a couple of months ago thanks to your videos. Hey, awesome. Is SEAL Team 6 training different from regular SEALs? Absolutely. What do you think a good squat and deadlift warm up is? You know what I do? I usually do a squat and RDL pyramid. So we'll do one squat and one kettlebell RDL. Then we'll jog like 50 meters, mix in some dynamic stretches, do 2 and 2, jog back, 3 and 3, 4, 4. And by the way, that's a non weighted squat. So it's just an air squat. 5, 5, 6, 6. You know, usually by 5 to 6, you're feeling pretty warm. So I keep going to 10. I jog another mile and mix in a bike or one or the other. Then I start progressing with my weight on squats and deadlift. So that's how I do it. But you got to remember, I also have 54-year-old hips and legs, so I need a longer I need a longer what you call it warm up for sure before my body is ready to lift. In fact, my first mile, my body's usually yelling at me. So my first mile is a warm up on any run. But that's just me. When I was younger, just cranked it out. Probably didn't warm up but for 5 minutes with a 5-minute bike and then started progressing my lifts. I found a tack lead on the One's Ready podcast can save up to 10% with One's Ready discount code. That works. Good advice. Yeah, I think I just answered that one. Let's see. I got into USNA. Hey, man, that's awesome. Yeah, you'll love Annapolis. What's the best way you make sure that you get a SEAL contract? What happens if you don't get your first choice? Well, first of all, you got a lot to worry about before you need to worry about a SEAL contract because that does not happen until your senior year and you spend the first 3 years preparing for that day. In fact, I wrote an article called Leave to Navy SEAL. It's up on military.com. It's a good article. Check it out. And it talks about all the different ways to prepare for buds while you're there. Neat thing about it is you'll see your upper class, like your sophomores and juniors, what they're doing when you're a freshman to prepare. And, there's some wickets you have to go through each year. So there's plenty of exposure to you. So you're not on your own. You will learn everything you need to know just about any community. Marines do the same thing. EOD does the same thing. There's things that you have to do for other branches as well. Pilot, you could be flying as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for you while you're there. Congratulations. It's not an easy thing to get to. I will say this though. You still got to up your game when you get here. It's hard. Like I crushed high school, did really well, and then I come here and just got my ass kicked. So um, just realize got to learn how to study, time management, all of that's going to come into play, whenever you get here, and then still time to go work out and prepare for what you want to do. I love doing half-mile sprints. Yep, we did some today. They work pretty well for me and really picking up the pace. Yep, half milers are the next level for sure. I still currently working on join SF community in my country. I can crush every discipline except running. The running portion is a 2-mile run with a 25-pound ruck. Well, it's not really running. That is more rucking. and you got to do 2 miles in under 12 minutes with a 25-pound ruck. Man, that is impressive. Most people can't do a 2-mile run in 12 minutes without a 25-pound ruck, with nothing. 1350 is great. Man, if you can do 2 miles in 1350, that's ridiculous. That is really good. That's got to be passing, though. I know you're talking about competitive, but you got to understand there's competitive and then there's number one in the class. There's nothing wrong with striving to be number one in the class. But if you're crushing everything else and you have one thing that you just kind of suck at, that you're trying to get better, have some realistic expectations too. And, I never once tried to win a race at Buds. Just wasn't going to happen. My goal was to be in that top 10% every run so you wouldn't get extra credit running because you weren't in the pack with everybody else. So, that's kind of where I am on my answer to you. I'd be real interesting to hear what a 1350 is in the percentages of passing and failing. Because if it puts you in the top 10, 15%, that's not bad. But if it's failing, then yeah, absolutely. We got to figure out on how the hell are you going to do that. But really, it's about learning your pace. My suggestion would be just like you would for running, because you're running at this pace, is you just got to get used to, a 6-minute mile pace with 25 pounds on your back, which just sounds awful. So that means a quarter mile or a 400 meters in uh, a minute and a half. That means a 3-minute 800 meters. Means a 6-minute 1600 meters. So that's pretty good that you can do that, and coming from a athletic, Olympic powerlifting background. So you got all the strength you need. My suggestion is lay off all the weights right now and just run. Like let your leg days be calisthenics. Lots of lunges, lots of squats, um, and lay off the weights and just focus on muscle stamina and endurance. That's what I would do. Cool, man. Well, we just had good luck there in Finland. That's hardcore, man. That's impressive. That kind of running is not common that fast. I've seen people do it, but they are not normal people. All right, folks. We got anybody else? Looks like we are done with yeah, don't forget tomorrow will be a CSS critique page along with some live Q&As. If I did miss your question, you guys check out sorry, email me at stu@stewsmith.com if I missed your question for some reason. Send it to me. Happy to answer it online. Send your videos there too if you want me to look at your combat swimmer stroke. And then I'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, check out stewsmithfitness.com. All kinds of stuff over there for you if you need training programs. So we're gonna shut it down right now. It's been an hour. I got stuff to do. Hope you guys have a good one. And remember, if you're from overseas, instead of 9 o'clock East Coast time, we're still 9 o'clock East Coast time, but we just changed our times due to daylight savings time. So just remember that. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow, 9 o'clock East Coast time. Have a good one.